Catina, welcome to the program here. Congratulations on that early legal win in Hays County there outside of Austin. But lay out the legal argument for us here. If the state says marijuana is illegal or anything's illegal, how can a city say we want to make it legal?
Yes, thank you for having me, Jason. So what we are doing is legal. These two court cases that came out of Hayes and Travis County, both judges have said there's no merit to this. So we want to be clear, what we are doing is legal and actually has been in practice for some Texas cities for years, saving these communities, including their counties, hundreds of thousands of dollars in public funding that can be reinvested in the community, going towards services that prevent someone from entering the criminal legal system in the first place.
And
Um,
yeah, and I think a lot of people understand that maybe the benefits of this, that you don't clog up the legal system, the jails, et cetera, with people with small amounts of marijuana. But if, why could Dallas or Austin or any other city say, listen, we decided we want to make manslaughter legal now, but the state says it's illegal. I don't understand the legal argument behind that. How a state can do that when I don't understand the legal argument how a city can do that when the state creates the cities.
Right. And that's not what I want to also be very clear. That is not what our policy says. This is very simple. The state of Texas does not give Dallas money for Dallas police, right? They cannot regulate discretion and how the city prioritizes enforcements on this, right? And I think what our policy is just saying is that the Dallas community and Texas in general are tired of investing in these draconian laws that are ineffective, wasteful, and often racially biased.
Ken Paxton is obviously going to appeal the attorney general representing the state here. Is that why you'd call this a short-lived victory, maybe, or is it?
I'm not too sure. Obviously, what we can do right now is just take our wins, as the moment, is happening, and keep pushing forward, right? And keep building, on what we are building on. I think in Texas, policies attacking our fundamental freedoms are rampant. Our campaigns are about reclaiming our agency in the most pragmatic way, right? The criminalization of cannabis has failed all of us, and Texas voters are just demanding the change that we deserve. We are basically locally codifying something that 80% of Texans want.
Yeah, we have seen the polls on that. Let me ask you about Austin specifically. Austin police had already stopped going after misdemeanor pot possession back in 2020, unless it's tied to a larger felony case, which makes sense. But what was the purpose of 2 years later passing the ordinance then in 2022 if the city had already stopped doing this?
Right. It was essentially to codify it, right, into city law, city constitution to say this is the law of the local land.
And people here, people here decriminalize marijuana. Explain what that means because it's there's nuance here. It's not exactly black and white.
Yeah, I think right when we are talking about the elimination of enforcement of local level or low level marijuana offenses, we're talking about Class A and Class B offenses, which the state deems as a Class A misdemeanor being up to 4 ounces of possession, Class B being up to 2 ounces. So that's also where you get that little figure, right? That you hear knocking around, the 4 ounce, the 2 ounce.
Yeah.
That is what the state has deemed fit for those classifications.
An ordinance is going to be on the November ballot in Dallas as well. I believe Ground Game Texas helped get some of the 50,000 signatures to put it on the ballot in Dallas. You have said, I believe, that you think the Dallas ordinance is surely going to pass. Why are you so confident?
Yeah, and then just to clarify, we went out and hired hundreds of local organizers in Dallas. So we did lead this effort, along with local businesses in Dallas, as well as some coalition partners that helped lead this effort. So it was a big lift for the Dallas community in general who get behind this. I think I think there's been some also argument of this helps police prevent other violent crimes. Our policy doesn't prevent the investigation of violent crimes, right? It allows just more resources to go or be allocated where the community needs them the most. I think community leaders, including the chief, frequently state that their mission is to serve the community. The Dallas community has made it clear that they want to eliminate enforcement of low-level marijuana offenses. By having 50,000 people sign the petition in favor of marijuana decriminalization, the community has set a clear message. The decision deserves to be respected and honored. Once Dallas residents pass this in November, we don't see or think that this will not pass.
Katina, you obviously know Texas politics. What do you expect the legislature to do when they return in January?
I think that's it's unpredictable, right? And what we're focused on is building community local infrastructure and power. As we know, we have power in numbers, and that's what we're focused on building. We know where we stand as Texans. And so I think that also should signal, right? And I think on a local level and then on a state level, our representatives should fall in line to our beliefs and where we are. They should meet us in this moment. So I think that signals a really clear message of taking the temperature of Texans in this moment and meeting us where we are in this decision.
Why is it so important to gather these signatures, to put it on the ballot, to codify the language? At the end of the day, district attorneys in all 254 counties, they get discretion to decide what they want to prosecute and not want to prosecute. Why not just work directly with them and say, listen, if we don't have enough police officers on the street in certain counties or enough, bed space in jails, let's forego these little, 2 ounces or 4 ounces arrests that we have.
That's a good point. I think a lot of people don't understand literally in how county and city work together or in terms of the criminal legal system. I think it's so intricate and nuanced. If there are no city police collecting evidence or citing or ticketing or jailing for this, it will never meet the arm of the county and the district attorneys and the county attorneys, correct? So what you're doing is you're being proactive and the stance of saying we don't need to collect and burden our jail system. We don't need to burden our our legal system. We don't need to burden our DAs with all of this.
The last thing I wanted to ask you is what do you expect this legal fight is going to cost? You had the early wins in Hayes County and in Travis County. It's going to be on the ballot in Dallas. We know the Attorney General Ken Paxton is not going to give up on this.
Yeah, monetarily, I'm not qualified to answer that. But I will say this. When we think about reimagining our public safety, when we think about that budgets are moral documents and the legacy that we leave behind, and that we are a civilized community, right? There are other communities putting into practice and measures around the legalization of marijuana in other states, right? That we can look to. So I think that I guess the cost is, the legal cost will, I think, be really short to what we save as a community, right? The fact that we know that most of these arrests are wasteful, they cost cities hundreds of thousands of dollars. Adding that up over the course of years can be a lot and burdensome, as well as the cost into our community with police bias in these arrests, right? The savings that a city might save for any kind of civil suit that may come towards the city if a police officer arrests somebody for having legal hemp, right? Because that's something that also doesn't have a lot of conversation, that we do have legal hemp in this state and they're unrecognizable.
Right.
And so what those costs are, not to mention the cost in if someone does get arrested, what that takes away from their job, their housing, and their family well-being, that cost. So I don't see it as something that will waste or be wasteful. I think we will reclaim that much more so.
Catina, voters in Austin approved this. Voters in Dallas consider it in November. What's next? Where are you going next in the state?
I don't, we have some really wonderful conversations. We're talking to other nonprofits in our Texas community, and really talking about where we go next. So that's still in conversation. But we are really excited about those conversations, and we're just going to keep moving along and keep organizing across the state.
Catina, thank you for the time. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Jason.